One of the things we really wanted to do with Armageddon was kind of take what we were really successful with Guerrilla and kind of evolve that.
They drove us from the surface.
The number one thing we were commended on with Guerrilla was our combat and our destruction. And so we wanted to kind of tailor an experience, a more focused, destructive experience. And so we've really, developed the whole game around the destruction, around the combat and the gameplay, and built all these new cool weapons for you to play around with that really take advantage of our destruction engine.
And pushed us underground. But as we survive in the mines our ancestors built, we're beginning to realize we're not alone. We're no longer the only life on Mars.
Red Faction Armageddon. We've obviously been playing it today.
Yeah.
What have you guys been showing off to us?
Well, we've been showing a couple things off. We've been showing off one of our a single-player campaign, a little piece of that. We've also been showing off our Ruin mode, which is kind of our free-based destruction mode, and we've given you guys a glimpse at our multiplayer mode with co-op Infestation.
So for fans of the series, does the story continue, or are we following a different person now?
It does continue, but there's a bit of a generational gap. We're picking up the story about 50 years after the end of Red Faction Guerrilla. So you're playing as the grandson of Alec Mason. His name is Darius, and so we're kind of picking up the story after quite a bit of a gap.
So what's the main premise of the game? How does actual Armageddon begin?
Well, it starts off with this man named Adam Hale, who kind of becomes this cultist leader on the planet after the events of Guerrilla. The planet was kind of at peace. Everyone had kicked off the EDF. Everything was pretty peaceful. In the resulting 50 years, there has been this a lot more political strife, the turmoil that has come up. Adam Hale has kind of risen to power, developed this cult, and he's hell-bent on getting rid of the colonists and the marauders. And so he and his cultist sect kind of descend on the terraformer at the very beginning of the game and attack it, destroy it, ultimately driving everyone underground and setting in stage his plan to unleash this alien presence that's been sleeping underneath the planet. I think that the biggest thing is obviously we're going underground. We're going kind of back to the roots of the franchise and focusing on that destruction in those spaces where there's no more the combat, the big destruction in one section, and then you're driving all the way across the map to find something else cool. It's one crazy ride from beginning to end.
And I noticed with the title Armageddon, it's the end of the world, right? So how are we rocking with aliens? Is aliens the end of the world? I don't want it to go that way. I'd prefer a massive explosion. I'd prefer that.
Well, we'll have to see how it all ends. But yeah, we're bringing in these cool new enemies that we've kind of gone back to Red Faction 1 and said, all those events that kind of took place in there, what was the real catalyst? What actually was happening there? And so that's where we're pulling a lot of that stuff, a lot of the history from Red Faction 1, pulling that into Armageddon, and kind of blowing the lid off this hidden evil presence that's been there the whole time.
So is there a slight concern that you've reached Armageddon now? Is it over by the end of it with Armageddon?
Well, I think we're kind of using it as a jumping off point for the rest of the franchise and where we build it from there. There's a really cool there's a really cool experience, I think, to be had with the story that we're telling. And so Darius' story, it's not the end of the Red Faction franchise, it's not the end of the universe, but it certainly is a cool way to kick off the new Red Faction.
But obviously fans of previous games, will they appreciate that is there a lot of cutbacks to previous Red Faction games?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a whole rich history. This is the 4th game in the franchise, and so there's a lot of stuff to draw on. And so we're really starting to utilize our destruction engine that we had in Guerrilla. Is now we're bringing in repair. So anything that you can destroy, you can bring back with the repair mode. It just lends this whole new level of dynamic combat, dynamic gameplay. So you don't have to worry about I don't want to destroy this thing because I might need it later. Well, if you need it later, just go ahead and repair it. And on top of that, we've got our brand new weapons that we're bringing in. in, like our magnet gun, our plasma beam, you know, our plasma cannon, and our nanoforge abilities that lend a whole other way to play the game. What we've really focused on is kind of, you know, building that world out, building that universe out, and you know, if this is their first time, you know, playing a Red Faction game, they'll be absolutely, you know, be able to pick things up and enjoy the game for what it is. But you know, for our longtime fans, we've got a lot of stuff in there that harkens back to the previous games that, you know, if you're paying attention, you'll definitely be able to pick up on.